further ado, Michelle.
My name is Michelle.
Oh,
Ah,
we're gonna
not
start
yet.
with this.
No,
Oh,
No, not yet.
no, that's at the end.
That's at the end. All right.
Get it up
Yeah.
there.
Hi.
Hi.
How is everyone?
Good.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here, first off. This is really a godly gift to be able to share my story and hopefully tell other people what I went through and share that there is hope and recovery at the end of the tunnel. I am nervous, so please give me some grace. So I'll start. My name is Michelle Jewsbury, and I am a domestic violence survivor.
Hi, Michelle.
Michelle. A lot of people don't know what domestic violence is. It's the systematic persecution of one partner by another. Another definition is it's a violent or aggressive behavior, typically within the home, and typically against women. It's abuse. And what abuse is it's somebody treating somebody with cruelty, maliciousness, not caring for them, and it's especially regarded as crucial and severe abuse when it's repeated, and that's what I went through. So I'm gonna kind of jump right into my story and tell you how me, the strong, independent woman, got trapped in the cycle of domestic violence. So before the Me Too movement, before all the politics, before everything that's out right now, I met a man who I fell for, who I thought that I loved. And I dated this man from 2012 to 2016, so this is pretty recently, actually. Prior to 2012, I met him at a leadership function when I was doing Amway, of all things, and he sat next to me, and we started talking. And he was pompous and, charismatic, charming. He had this grin that I just couldn't resist. But at that point, I was dating somebody else. And I remember sitting next to him, and all he would do was talk, right, about himself and all of his achievements and what he's gonna do. So I had no interest in a relationship with him. Well, I moved to Los Angeles the beginning of 2011, and I ended up joining a social media site that sent out a message to all of my contacts on my Hotmail account, and he was one of them. So we're gonna call my abuser Paul. He got that message and he said, "Hey Michelle, how are you? I haven't seen you forever. What have you been doing? Are you single?" And I went, "Well, yeah, but I moved here to pursue an acting career. I moved from Portland, Oregon to Los Angeles for acting, lo and behold, like a lot of other people here." And I was hesitant to get in a relationship with him. He persisted. He sent me flowers, he sent me love notes and texts, messages. I agreed to go out on a first date with him. That first date was wonderful. It really was wonderful. We went to a sushi restaurant. We sat there and ate good sushi and had a couple cocktails. And he really shared with me his vision for life. And that's what I was so attracted to, is Paul had this grandiose vision for what he wanted. And I really wanted similar things. He wanted to travel the world and help kids, and he wanted to share his childhood experiences with other people to help them through what they're going through. So I fell, and I fell hard. First time my head went through the wall was 5 months into the relationship. And at that point, I was living with him. He isolated me, which is one of the tactics of abusers. I moved from Los Angeles up north. I was away from my family, away from my friends, away from my congregation at the time. I had nobody to reach out to. And that first time that my head went through the wall, I actually didn't think anything of it. It kind of bounced, made a huge dent in the wall. We had an argument, he forcefully pushed me and strangled me against the wall, and I brushed it off. I had one of his friends help me patch the wall, and we didn't talk about it. But the abuse got a lot worse. One of the worst beatings I received from him was around October this time, 4 years ago, where he beat me for 4 hours, if not more, strangling me. I remember breaking free from the house and running as fast as I could outside, and he caught up with me. I could hear the footsteps, his running, panting behind me. When he finally caught up to me, grabbed me by my hair and drugged me down. I was bawling and crying, and he said, I won't hurt you anymore. Just come back to the house and we'll talk. And I tried to resist, but he was 6'3", more powerful than I am, and I loved him. So I really thought that he wouldn't hurt me again. So I went back to the house, and he led me by my neck. And when we got in, he shut the door, and I looked at his face, and it was black. His eyes were pure black, and I couldn't see the beautiful blue in his eyes, and it scared me. Later that evening, when he sobered up quite a bit, he was very drunk at this time. When he sobered up, I was covered in blood, and he took me in the shower with him, and I was too weak to lift my hands and my arms to wash my hair. I was just kind of in a daze. And he put me in the shower with him and rinsed me off, and I remember clumps of my hair just coming out, clumps and clumps. I was more stoic, and I laid on the bed, and he held my hand laying on the bed. The next day, when I drifted in and out of sleep, the next day when we woke up, he looked at me and just started crying, saying, I'm so sorry, I will never do this again. I had a blackout, it was so bad. People thought I had jaundice for about 9 months after this beating. And I stayed because I believed in him, because I loved him. I thought that was going to be the last of it, but of course it wasn't. And I don't need to go into every beating, of course, but I was beaten twice and raped once by him. For the longest time, I didn't believe I was raped because he used his fingers and not his genitals. But later, after leaving that relationship, I did realize it is rape, it was rape. Lo and behold, I am now out of that relationship. But what kept me there for so long is I really didn't want to leave. I really believed him. When he told me that he was going to change, I thought he was going to change. I fell in love with this wonderful aspect of him. The let's build a life together, let's dream, let's travel the world, let's have children. But then there was this monster inside of him that subconsciously I thought maybe I could change, I could help. He told me stories about what happened to him as a child, and I had sympathy and empathy for him, to where I wanted to help him. Of course, he didn't change, and I could have died many times, but I survived, and I left. There's a cycle of domestic violence, and the cycle goes from walking on eggshells to a big blowout, either sexually, physically, emotionally, and then the apology stage. This apology stage is why most victims stay in abusive relationships. This apology stage is what is unknown to most people. They don't realize, well, why'd you stay with them? The first time your head went through the wall, you should have left, right? But that apology stage really gets you. You believe that person. So that's why I stayed. Now, there's always a breaking point in every relationship like that, abusive relationship. And mine was infidelity. When I had discovered he was having affairs on me, that's when I don't know why, subconsciously I was like, you can beat me and rape me, financially and emotionally abuse me, but you cheat on me? Oh no. But that's what happened. You know, he cheated on me and I found out. And I took a bottle of Maker's Mark and drank the whole thing one day. And then the next day I laid on the kitchen floor. The next day I laid on the kitchen floor and I was so depressed. And, you know, we tried to work it out and thank God it didn't happen, okay? At this point, I didn't really understand the severity of my situation. But I ended up moving back to Los Angeles. He let go of most of his grip. He still emotionally and financially controlled me. So my abuser was a very wealthy individual that lives in Northern California. His name, we'll call him Paul, like I said. He had me add his name to all of my credit cards, which I did. And he jacked up debt, $100,000 probably with everything. Leased me a car that I couldn't afford. So when I left that relationship, I was with him physically for 3 years. The last year I didn't see him, but like I said, it was still financial abuse because I had to call him every month. Hey Paul, will you please put money in the account so we can pay these bills? Hey Paul. I, at that point, didn't have a job. He had me quit my job. So then I was looking for work back in LA. That last 4th year, my father died and I had ACL surgery. So it was very hectic and hard for me to obtain work. So I relied on him still. And that reliance kept me in that relationship. I want to kind of go over some red flags with everybody. So if you or somebody that you know is dating somebody or married to somebody and some of these red flags pop up, recognize that there may be some type of abuse happening and to intervene or to, you know, pat that person on the back or say that you're here no matter what. My biggest red flag was before I even started dating him, God blatantly told me no. I heard him loud and clear, right? I remember walking through a crosswalk with one of my girlfriends downtown and telling her about my new romantic relationship, and I literally heard God yelling at me, no. What? I'm not gonna listen to that. So I didn't listen to that. Another red flag is he moves too quickly. So my abuser moved very quickly. I moved in with him, you know, 4 months into the relationship. And he isolated me. So that's definitely a huge red flag. He wanted me all to himself. So he didn't want to share me with my congregation, family, friends. He wanted me only there, only at his house. He had me quit my job. That's another thing. He didn't really let me have my own identity. I became his identity. He constantly insulted me, but he constantly praised me and then insulted me. So it was like, oh, you're such an amazing actress. Why are you doing that? It's such a waste of time, type deal. Called me fat. I still struggle with that to this day. He says, you still have cellulite on your butt. There's a child here. I don't want to say what he actually said. And I still struggle with that, you know. He took no responsibility for his behavior or actions. So I am in therapy, and I have been in therapy now for many years. And my therapist was actually our couples therapist when we were together. And he never took responsibility even when we went to therapy together, when I thought he was gonna change, and he didn't. He blamed his failures on his family, and he used to call his ex crazy. And I believed him. Oh, your ex is crazy. All right. I've heard that many times from people, unfortunately. But from him, I later learned that he abused her so bad that she ran and sought protection. So, where am I now? After leaving that relationship, I began documenting things that happened to me. My therapist had suggested writing therapy, so I started writing out everything that happened, and then realizing how awful it was. There were so many times that I just sat and cried and cried and cried. How could I let myself get in that situation? What did I do wrong? Eventually I learned it wasn't my fault at all. The writing therapy came out in book format. From there, I felt called by God to write a play. So I wrote a solo play, 65-minute solo play, called But I Loved Him, performed it at the Hollywood Fringe Festival 2 years ago. During that process, everybody was like, oh, it's so therapeutic. And I didn't want to hear that. I'm like, no, I'm good. It's not therapeutic. I'm doing it for other reasons. But really, it was therapeutic. Extremely therapeutic. I beat myself up on stage, rehearsing. I lived through those experiences over and over and over again. After the play, I finished my book. The book is called But I Love Him. I'm working on publishing it now. I had a publisher, but because my ex-abuser is as powerful as he is, my publisher backed down. And, you know, it's just no, 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 no until you hear a yes. And that's where I'm going next. I wanted to press charges against my abuser. I wanted to seek restitution for what happened. But I used to sit in the back of church, and at this time I was going to Mosaic. And God would tell me no. And I didn't understand. And I would sit back there and go, why can't I do anything? In November of 2015, I got a message on my phone from Paul's current girlfriend. And he had put her head through a window in the bathroom, and she went to the police and decided to press criminal charges against him. At that point, I looked up at God and I'm like, okay, so is now the time? Can I do something? And I didn't hear a yes, but I didn't hear a no. I more felt at peace. So I found an attorney who took my case. My statute of limitations was over, so I couldn't press criminal charges, but I was able to press civil charges. This was 2015. 3 years later, fast forward today. The criminal case is on Halloween this year. My civil case is November 19th of next month. I had to see his face. For 4.5 hours, I sat across from him at a deposition. This was 3.5 weeks ago. First time I've seen him in 3 years. We had our attorneys present, but we made eye contact many, many times. And I'm not fully recovered. You know, you can't really fully recover, but you can move on and help other people and speak your truth. But sitting across from him, I realized I had a lot of sympathy for him. He's gonna face a lot of time in jail. I mean, there's 3 women testifying against him in this criminal matter, and he's facing 10 years in prison. But I really felt bad for him, and the eye contact that we made, I had so many mixed feelings because he almost cried, and we couldn't speak face to face. You know, he didn't actually talk to me, but it was hard, and I've been dealing with that battle, of course. But it's natural for it to be difficult. It's natural to still have sympathy and feelings for your abuser, because still to this day I say that it was the best and the worst relationship I've ever had. Moving forward, I now run a nonprofit organization called Unsilenced Voices. I founded that 1 year ago. Unsilenced Voices focuses on domestic violence survivors and victims. And right now we're working in Ghana and Sierra Leone. I've been to Ghana twice and Sierra Leone twice. And we are now transitioning to